The last home standing.
Perfectly normal, which, was so surreal. And you drive up the driveway and there's my house. The front of my house looks perfectly normal.
She loved her neighborhood. Now, it's just her. Newly released body camera footage shows an elected official trying to talk officers out of arresting her. They found her conspiracy theory unconvincing. Elections clerk Tina Peters then came to the event in the Denver area in her mugshot outfit. Fellow conspiracy theorists talked about hanging the people they believe rigged the election. Her grandfather got help resettling in the U.S. when he left Poland a century ago. Now she's here for a family coming in from Afghanistan. And it's Friday, so we grabbed our boards and headed to the Ruby Hill Rail Yard for the best part of our week, because this is next. But before. The Marshall Fire took whole neighborhoods and left others standing. Whole streets gone, right next to another left untouched. And in one spot, a single home now stands alone. From the ground, look at the front door and convince yourself this is a home like any other in Colorado. But it's from above that you see it is the only home in this portion of a neighborhood in Louisville that survived December's fire. A kindergarten teacher and her family lived in that home. And she's a woman with incredible perspective on this situation because it's the second time she's been through this. Here's her conversation with our Anusha Roy.
It's a reminder of what life was like before. The day of the Marshall Fire, Wendy Buffer took her daughter to Costco for a COVID booster shot.
Go towards Denver!
Get out, get out. There's a fire. It's at the back of the store. You must get out now.
They managed to get home still calm until the electricity went out and the flames entered their neighborhood.
Fences behind my neighbors on fire and their bushes were on fire. At that point, it was on our side.
Wendy's husband got video of a neighbor's home vanishing into the flames as they were still trying to leave, sure that the same was in store for them. She didn't have the heart to go back to her house the next day, but her husband wanted to see the loss himself.
He just called crying. You're not going to believe it. It's here. It's still standing.
It's the only home left in the neighborhood.
So my daughter went over with us, and we walked in, and my husband unlocked the door, and we walked in, and she just stood there frozen in the foyer of our home and said, "It's as if time stood still in our house because everything was there and nobody else around us has anything."
She isn't sure why, but heard through a friend who was a firefighter that crews were valiantly trying to save her house. But the shock was compounded by the fact that 3 years ago, Wendy's family lost another home in a wildfire in southern Colorado.
If I could do anything, I wish the people who lost everything could hear me. It does get better.
It's one of the many reasons that as her neighbors rebuild, Wendy's home will be open to them.
We'll be the stopping point, the bathroom that they need because their house is being built, and they might need a glass of water, and perhaps they need to make a phone call. And it's my home, and those are my friends and our neighbors, and we love it there.
For Next, I'm Anusha Roy.
Wendy's home has some ash and smoke damage, so she's in a rental right now, but she knows she'll still probably be the first person to move back into her neighborhood. What do you say we talk about some encouraging news on the COVID-19 front? A month ago, Colorado's 7-day positivity rate was the highest it's been in the entire pandemic. Since January 11th, it's dropped to about a third of what it once was. Over the last 7 days, about 9.5% of COVID-19 tests done in the state have come back positive. A month ago, it was just under 30%, and it's been in a steep and steady drop since. If we keep falling at our current rate, we should be below the 5% safety threshold within a couple of weeks. It's where the virus is considered to be under control. And our ICU bed capacity is slowly opening up statewide. 89% of beds have been in use over the last 7 days. We were at about 93% at the start of January. There are 158 open ICU beds across the state right now. Newly released body camera footage from the arrest of Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters earlier this week shows that the Republican clerk, who's continuously pushing election rigging claims, even tried to convince the arresting officers that they were simply pawns in a conspiracy to silence her.
Have a seat in the car.
Do you have any idea what
Here, scoot over a little bit.
Do you really know what you're doing? You're assisting Merrick Garland to not show the truth of what the election is.
Get over.
You really know.
That's the end of that. Clerk Peters could be heard accusing the officers of Grand Junction Police Department of being in cahoots with the U.S. Attorney General. They were actually in cahoots with DA investigators who were serving a search warrant to seize Peters' iPad on Tuesday. She's accused of using the iPad to improperly record a court hearing and then lie to a judge about it. Investigators later talked to Peters in the patrol car, and she told them that they should be investigating election fraud instead. Peters was released on scene after being uncuffed. You can hear her on the tape telling officers that they had broken her hand or her wrist. She was offered an ambulance, declined. Peters is facing 2 misdemeanor charges for obstructing a police officer and obstructing government operations. On top of that, she faces additional local and federal investigations for the security breach of Mesa County's voting systems. Clerk Peters then spoke publicly for the first time since her arrest at a gathering in Castle Rock last night. The conservative group FEC United held what was called an emergency town hall. It was a who's who of election conspiracy theorists, including one who suggested hanging Colorado's Democratic Secretary of State. Said that to applause inside a church. Here's politics guy Marshall Zellinger.
For 3 hours Thursday night, FEC United hosted what it called a, quote, emergency town hall with Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters and special guests.
So you may know me as the #1 most dangerous election denier in Colorado.
That special guest is Shawn Smith, an election rigging conspiracy theorist who at this meeting said, without proof, he had evidence of criminal election conduct by Colorado Democratic Secretary of State Jenna Griswold. Then, in a church, he more than hinted at ignoring one of the 10 commandments.
If you're involved in election fraud, then you deserve to hang. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. I was accused of endorsing violence. I'm not endorsing violence. I'm saying when you put your hand on a hot stove, you get burned.
You know, I took it very seriously. I reported it to State Patrol.
Griswold learned about this threat through social media, where she has received numerous threats, which she shared with us and law enforcement.
Usually nothing happens. And it's very concerning because we're seeing these attacks against secretaries of state, predominantly women.
The threats of hanging elected leaders did not start last night.
If you see any articles that are out there that talk about Joe Oltmann is talking about sending people to the gallows, I did. I said that. I said that, you know, the adequate response for treason is 100% being hung by your neck till you're dead.
Joe Oltmann, the head of FEC United, has pushed that narrative on his conservative podcast and speaking events multiple times.
And by the way, if you don't like me talking about the gallows and hanging those that are traitors against our country, change the law because it's in the Constitution that you should be hung.
Thursday night's comments were at The Rock, a church in Castle Rock. I stopped by there today to see if the church and the pastor who attended the event supports the idea of hanging the Secretary of State and if the church would have FEC United back again. The pastor told me he was against the deadline and would like to sit down with me later, but that it was not a simple yes or no. It is. I have received many questions about how an event like that can impact a church's tax-exempt status. I reached out to the IRS to get some basics. I am by far not an expert on this still, but a church can have a public forum. However, if there is support for or against any specific candidate, that's where it gets a little squirrely.
Perhaps we could ask the church if they'd be interested in hosting the hanging. I imagine with the amount of death threats against the Secretary of State, she's got to have protection.
She has third-party protection, not always State Patrol, and she's asked for more funding and received more funding from the state to hire third-party protection, security. She is pushing for a new state law that would give her, the Attorney General, and the State Treasurer the same State Patrol protection that the Governor and Lieutenant Governor currently have.
Just kind of goes without saying, if you're a public official doing your job, you should probably not get assassinated for it. All right, Marshall, thank you. A family that got help resettling in the U.S. almost a century ago is paying it forward to a newly resettled Afghan family. It's like the Olympics, but in the privacy of your own home. And we can't call it the Olympics because we get sued. And the best winter spot in Denver, perfect place to ask our favorite question. That's next. Everything comes back around. Coloradan, whose grandfather was helped by the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society when he resettled here a century ago, is now helping families do the same thing through the same organization. Lizzie Neufeld is a volunteer with Hayes. You chatted with her today as she worked to get a home in Denver ready for a refugee family from Afghanistan. They're arriving tomorrow. That organization was founded in the late 1800s to help resettle Jewish people. It actually helped her grandfather resettle here when he came from Poland in the early 1900s.
He probably wouldn't have gone on to have what he had and what we had if it hadn't been for this somewhat stranger who said, I'm going to help you and your family and make this happen for you. So I feel in some way we're doing that. I mean, I think that just by providing a warm home and all the things you could need in a house.
That Afghan family that Lizzie and the other volunteers are preparing for was in danger over there because their dad served as an interpreter for the U.S. Army. Their home in Afghanistan was burned by the Taliban, so they are coming to the U.S. with nothing but a suitcase full of clothes.
I'm here in the backyard. The snowfall continuing to come down on this Friday evening. This is our camera that usually looks at downtown Denver. Tough to see, low visibility and almost a whiteout out there. This is our vantage point right in front of the 9 News studios. Looks like the road's still okay, but snowfall certainly stacking up. As we look on HD Doppler 9 tonight, this system certainly impacting the Front Range. As we zip across the I-25 corridor, that's where you're going to find the heavier bands from Boulder through Broomfield, downtown Denver, and then even to the south toward Castle Rock. Few light snow showers still impacting the eastern plains. They'll just look for a couple of inches tops. Here in the city, about 2 to 4, but this storm system, it's a fast mover. It rolls in and it should be out of here by about 11 o'clock midnight. A trace to an inch into northern Colorado, but if you live closer into the foothills around Boulder through Golden, about 3 to 6 inches coming through. Let's time it out as we get to about 11 p.m. The heaviest snowfall into south central Colorado. Waking up on your Saturday morning, nothing but sunshine and possibly a little melting going on as our temperatures warm up just a bit. The dogs are loving it out here. Too funny. This storm system is moving out and this ridge of high pressure rolls back in. That's going to kick up the heat for us. We'll be back to the mid 40s tomorrow. And then look at this 7-day forecast. Mid 50s Sunday, close to 60 as we look ahead toward early next week. And then right now I have some snow showers coming through next Wednesday and Thursday. Kyle.
Danielle with that hat clearly rooting for the Russians in the Olympics. We at Next love Team USA, but we always pick an underdog as well. Couldn't go with the Netherlands. They're actually quite good at the Olympics. They won their 50th Winter Olympic medal today. Poor Iceland never won a single one. With 2 athletes competing late last night and early this morning, I mean, maybe there was a chance they'd be atop the medal stand. The Icelandic national anthem, Lofungsher, playing. It's a beautiful anthem. Well, first up was Hólmfríður Dóra Friggardóttir competing in the women's Super G. She was 32nd. There's not a medal for 32nd. Her 2022 Winter Olympics are now over. Her countryman Snorri Ethor Einarsson competed in the men's 15-kilometer cross-country race today. He finished 36th. That is better, though, than his finish in that same event at Pyeongchang in 2018. Dude's the 36th best at something in the world, and he gets nothing. Nothing is what the medal count shows for Iceland. They still have an opportunity to come up with their first Winter Olympic medal. One of the co-flag bearers, Sturla Snare Snorsson, still has not competed. He'll compete next week in alpine skiing, and you'll see it right here. So you know, you at home have the same amount of Winter Olympic medals as any Icelandic athlete. Tell your friends. We have decided to highlight your Olympic skill with a new segment we call Colorado's At-Home Olympics, but not the Olympics, because if we said Olympics, they could sue us. Skiing in Colorado's kind of old hat at this point. Got to up the ante, crank up the speed. Kim spotted her neighbors hitching ropes to a car, skiing behind it down River Drive. Was that a Subaru? I think it was a Subaru. I don't know. That might have been a Toyota. One of the most popular winter events, curling, you know, you could play just about anywhere. And if you do it properly, you can actually trick your family into doing chores while making them think that they are competing in curling. Pat up in Greeley thinks he's curling, but nope, just mopping. Kitchen is the perfect curling ice sheet. Get that cleaning done while you play. Pat's wife, Sue, is the genius behind that. Show us your at-home Olympic events, even if they're, say, not really Olympic events. Email photos or videos to next@9news.com. We'll feature them over the next week or so. Ruby Hill Rail Yard's back open for the season, serving as a great reunion spot.
My good news is that I'm seeing my friends for the first time in a really long time and just having fun with them, doing something that we love.
Also the perfect setting for us to ask our favorite Friday question. What's your good news? Next. If you're new around here, say like if you enjoy watching the 5 p.m. news for the professionals and you got stuck with this program instead, well then we are happy to introduce you to Next Friday Tradition. End of every week, we go out with our favorite question. What's your good news? Photojournalist Tom Cole took it to Ruby Hill.
My good news of the day is that the park is open.
I've lived here for all my life and this is my first time snowboarding.
Wanted to try to learn, but I didn't know if I wanted to try to spend 8 hours, falling on my behind. My good news is my daughter Elizabeth Sorrells gets to be on the comm sat for NASA launches.
My good news is that I'm seeing my friends for the first time in a really long time and just having fun with them, doing something that we love.
I got promoted in a job. I'm conquering these mountains. That's my good news.
My good news is I got a really good scholarship to my dream college.
My good news is that I actually just recently got employed as of yesterday I got an offer from Grasslands PR agency and I'm really excited about it.
My good news is I got a good paying job, I might get promoted, and I get to hang out here with my friends.
And my good news is I just traded a 78 Ford for a 2006 Harley Softail. And it's pretty damn sweet.
My good news is I recently got a new job and I can be out here on my days off, skiing, having fun out here with friends that I've known for a long time.
Everybody's out here vibing, having a good time. It's a good time out here.
It's kind of special that it's open now. It's bringing the whole community together. I've already met like 3 or 4 friends out here. It's super sick. Everybody's sending it. So, I mean, what better news can you ask for than that?
All these people out at Ruby Hill talking about their jobs. I'm out skiing, somebody's like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know, I don't care. Hey, it's a sign that whatever you do in life, make sure you do it well. That and your feedback next.
Hey folks, next producer Kevin Larson here. Vail-based alpine skier Nina O'Brien is back in Colorado after breaking her leg in Beijing. Tom Green will have more on her return after next at 5:30 on the Olympic Zone. Break a leg, Tom. But please don't actually do that.
It's a sign that when you want business up front, party in the back, you got to head to the Western Slope for that specialty. Luke was in Montrose over the weekend when he saw the humble brag at affordable haircuts. Mullet specialist, says the sign. If you have ever been in to experience the work of the mullet specialist at affordable haircuts, let us see that Camaro crash helmet, the old Tennessee top hat, the Kentucky waterfall, the old El Camino headrest. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext on Twitter. Neil writes in feedback regarding Marshall Zellinger's reporting on threats against the Secretary of State and others. Neil says, thank you. It takes courage to expose this extremism. Those who don't expose it, though, are in reality feeding it. It's not going to go away if we ignore it, people. Chicken Guy writes in to say, ditch the glasses, man. You look goofy. I need them to see, Chicken Man. Wendy says, ooh, sexy in the glasses. Ma'am, this is a newscast.